child partition. It connects over the network through this VSP, VSC, and VMware bus architecture, out and logs onto the target down here, and gets its data disk from down there. But its boot disk is still being presented from the iSCSI initiator running inside the parent partition. So it kind of gets a little bit more complicated in an iSCSI environment.
Okay. So what about how does this relate to like a network attached storage? I mean, what iSCSI versus doing network attached storage?
Well, network attached storage. There are various types of network attached storage. Typically, they may be appear as an iSCSI target. It may appear as an SMB file server at the end of the day, so it's just like another regular file server sitting out there, not necessarily iSCSI, but it just appears as if it's another Windows server sitting out on the network. You can just use it as a regular storage.
So what are some things that people should look out for when using iSCSI? Some kind of best practices or best tips?
So that's actually a really good question. One of the best things you can do, let's make it simpler for a second. Let's take it where we just got the one volume, and let's get the iSCSI initiator running in the parent partition over here. So from a networking perspective, we strongly recommend anyway that you always have at least 2 physical NICs, network adapters, at least 2 in your physical machine that are attached to so these NICs are presented to your parent partition. Typically what we would recommend is that one of these is for management only type operations, and one or more are dedicated for virtual machines. And it's also, if you think of it, iSCSI is really network intensive, it makes sense to have one or more NICs dedicated specifically for your storage connectivity over TCP/IP to your iSCSI backing store. That really is a good thing to do. And what this enables you to do as well is you can turn on, if you've got a physical switch that can do jumbo frames, you can turn on jumbo frames. If this NIC is capable of doing that, you can, on the parent partition, you can do that, and you'll get the maximum throughput you can get to your backing storage by running iSCSI in that manner.
Teacher, is there also a way that, do we have limitations on either the number of VHDs that can be assigned to a single child operating system, or can we do a combination of pass-through disk plus VHDs plus iSCSI?
You can pretty much combine anything with anything. So a child operating system has got 2 types of storage controller. It's got the IDE and it's got the synthetic SCSI controller. So a IDE controller can have up to 4 devices. There's 2 IDE controllers, each with the primary and a master and a secondary. I know exactly where you're coming from with this one, Ben. The IDE controller has a primary and a secondary interface that you can connect VHDs to. The SCSI controller, the synthetic SCSI controller, can support up to 64 different VHDs or pass-through disks attached to them, and you can have up to 4 SCSI. You can have up to 4 SCSI controllers. So that makes. So if I work this out, you've got 260. I know that.
That's half a.
You've got 256 on SCSI. You've got IDE. You've got potentially up to 4, but typically it would only be 3 because you have a virtual CD or DVD device attached to it. So let's call it 3 to be realistic. So we've got 259. Ben's going to be really good at maths now.
I'm going to bring up a calculator.
You're going to bring up a calculator, that's great. So if you multiply that by 2040 gigabytes,
It's
which is the maximum size of a 500 terabytes.
It's 528360.
528360.
Over.
That's a lot of storage.
More than a half a petabyte.
But this is only using VHDs. VHDs are limited to this number 2040 gigabytes. If you're using pass-through storage or pass-through disk from some LUN or iSCSI target sitting over here, then there is no limit to the size of the disk that can be passed through. So you can have a 4 gigabyte LUN, you can pass that straight through to a virtual machine. And then on top of this number here, which is now grown an order of magnitude because you can have limitless pass-through storage, you can then have iSCSI, which is running, your iSCSI initiator running over here, over the network stack, which is also talking back to here. So these aren't actually attached to the virtual machine configuration. It's part of the software configuration inside the virtual machine itself. And so iSCSI can talk to have, I'm not sure what the actual limits are. I don't believe there is an actual limit to it. It's just TCP/IP based from the child partition. It's talking over to its iSCSI target. So add on another oodles of whatever, and you get to a very large number very quickly. So what you theoretically can have attached to a virtual machine.
What about performance wise? I mean, with iSCSI, what is
so the best performance you're going to get is by having a dedicated NIC in the parent partition, talking directly to the iSCSI.
The really best performance you're going to get is by having a hardware HBA. For
Absolutely,
iSCSI.
but he asked about iSCSI.
Well,
For?
no,
Okay.
if you have a hardware HBA for iSCSI.
If you do have one of those,
Yeah.
you can do that, yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever the specific hardware is, it still presents it. So even if it's an HBA, it's still at the end of the day a form of NIC that's talking back to your backing store. So yeah, a dedicated bit of hardware talking as fast as it can back to your backing store. That's the best way to do it.
Having said that, the performance of iSCSI connected to the child using the
It's not
child
bad,
network
actually.
is
It's pretty good.
quite phenomenal.
It is pretty good. It won't be quite as good as running this way, but it is pretty good.